what were the factors behind you not boosting the outlook? What were the factors that made you cautious? Maybe it's specific end markets. Maybe it's your view of the macro situation around the world.
Yeah, thank you, Ed, and great question to kick off with. The way I think about it is as follows. This is our fourth quarter as a public company. It is our fourth quarter of record revenues. As you said, we smashed it last quarter, over $930 million of revenue. So super happy about the quarter. Last quarter, 90 days ago, we raised the annual guidance about 8 to 10%. So when we looked at the outlook for the year, 90 days later, coming off a great quarter, we just didn't feel the need to raise expectations again. So that's really just the backdrop. It's quite simple. We raised the guidance for the year last quarter, record quarter this quarter, and we're maintaining at this point.
Rene, is there anything you can tell me about specific markets that you serve where you see some caution or some hesitation, but you're also able to see whatever it is holding you back working itself out?
Yeah, remember, Ed, that we have two components to our business. We have the licensing business and the royalty business. The licensing business, which is really the forward indicator of demand for ARM technology, never been stronger. The licensing revenue year on year up 70%. What's driving that? That's demand for building new complex chips, more demand for ARM, more compute capability. So that is a harbinger of forward type of demand. Royalties were also up year on year, almost 20%, largely driven by smartphone growth, where units have been modest, but our new version 9 is driving high royalty growth. So in general, we're very, very optimistic about the long-term outlook, particularly because of the licensing activity being so strong.
One of the areas, Rene, you know that I cover a bit more deeply is automotive technology, and I'm just trying to draw parallels with different names out there, understand what's happening. Mobileye told us this morning, for example, that particularly in China, but globally, some of their customers just stopped making orders for the second half of this year. I understand that from ARM's perspective, it's different, right? You think about the pipeline of a specific chip that you're involved in the design of. It's much further afield, longer term. But do you see in that industry in particular any sort of either cyclical process happening or some specific weakness?
Yeah, I think the way we think about the automotive market is we are growing faster in terms of demand for our technology than the market itself. So we were actually up double digits last quarter in automotive royalties. And that's really a function of gaining market share, but more importantly, the quality of the technology that's going in is much higher. These are more complex compute platform devices. They run a lot of software, whether it's for IVI, EV, autonomous. So we're very, very bullish about the long-term automotive outlook. The near-term inventory issues that go back and forth, we haven't been impacted by that so much because, as I said, we're gaining share, and the complexity of ARM technology being used just keeps going up.
Rene, I don't know if you'd agree, but I think the sort of common theme of this earnings season is capital expenditures relating to infrastructure for AI. And my question simply is, what direct benefit does ARM get from any of that process or investment cycle?
Yeah, thank you for the question. We get a bit of a dual benefit. There is a lot of CapEx going into overall infrastructure scale out. There's general purpose compute. ARM benefits there because our low-cost, low-power processors are very, very efficient in terms of building data centers. You have AWS, you have Microsoft, you have Google. They've all announced products based on ARM. And then you have the AI data centers, which are very, very complex, require a high degree of customization, power efficiency even more important there. And that's been a great tailwind for our business. Just look at what NVIDIA announced with Grace Blackwell, a very, very complex, not only chip, but platform based on ARM using their most advanced GPUs to drive the most complex AI data centers. So for us, we broadly view this AI CapEx expenditures as a tailwind for the business.
Rene, you mentioned Grace Blackwell. It takes me to one of our audience questions. So when I said you were coming on the show on social media, I actually got quite a number of submissions for you. And one is straightforward. Does ARM plan to design its own accelerator to compete, I guess, against some of the partners that you're with out in the marketplace?
Yeah, no product announcements today, Ed. Sorry, we're just here to kind of talk about the past quarter and our outlook going forward.
When no product announcement, but that would indicate from a sort of, I suppose, academic or R&D standpoint that you at least think about it.
We think about a lot of things, right? I mean, our technology, as broad as it is, as many markets as we can play in, my job is to think about a lot of things. So I think that's a safe statement.
Away from the sort of scale of infrastructure and data centers, I think the AI PC is something that's pretty much dominated the news cycle so far in 2024. One of the other audience questions was, when do we see sort of a truly competitive ARM-based Windows product that can take on the performance of Mac's or Apple's own silicon that goes into a Mac? I know that you think about this field a lot, but on the competition side, what do you make of that question?
Yeah, so I want to be respectful of my great partner Apple and their ecosystem, but there are some great products out there today. Dell XPS has some amazing technology. The battery life, I think I was reading online. In fact, I was looking to buy one of them. The advertised battery life is 19 hours. Now, for a Windows machine, that's rather unprecedented in terms of battery life, all-day use, don't need a brick. So Dell and Michael and his team have done an amazing job developing some great products. So I think there are great products out there today.
For all of the AI PC announcements, are there any examples of things that actually sort of translate into revenue for ARM?
Well, again, when you think about AI PCs running on ARM, that's revenue for ARM. And I think the way we think about the AI PC Windows on ARM market is probably less about the shipments this quarter, but the long-term trajectory. I think what you're now seeing is single suppliers that are in the market today. We've heard from a lot of sources that in the upcoming years, there's going to be more and more vendors building chips for the Windows on ARM market. That's just going to be great for us because not only does it fill out the choices of units for the end market, but it's going to drive growth for us. So I said a few months ago that I thought ARM could be a 50% market share in the Windows market in 5 years. I do believe that. We're about 100% of the Apple operating system, so 50% of the Windows market doesn't seem too ambitious in 5 years.
4 quarters ago, probably a number of years ago, you and I might have started a conversation talking about the smartphone market. So we'll end there. What's going on in the smartphone market right now, and whatever is happening as sort of an industry-wide level, is there anything specific relating to ARM at the high end of the smartphone market vis-a-vis sort of lower end models, the middle market, that you can tell me about?
Yeah, I don't want to sound like a broken record saying the trends that are going on in the smartphone market are good for ARM, but I'm going to say that because what we're seeing in the smartphone market is while unit growth has been modest single digits, there's been significant growth in the premium segment, the high end. And for ARM, that's where we draw the highest level of revenue. The reason for that is we use version 9 up in that area of the stack. That's a much higher royalty rate than the previous version. And those version 9 smartphones in the premium space, they use a lot of ARM processors, in some cases 12, 4, 14, 16, depending on the mix. So it's a true compute platform solution, which drives growth for us, which is why in the last quarter, where units were single digits, our smartphone royalties were up 50% year on year.
I had a similar conversation with Lisa Su of AMD yesterday, but is that reflective of a broad market movement, or is it something special ARM's doing to outperform in the market?
I think it's a combination of both. A number of years ago with version 9, we added some significant compute capability that was really to drive performance. Now what we're seeing, particularly in the near term and going forward, is the SKUs that are being built, people are trying to put as much compute performance as possible in those phones. For example, when you think about the large language models such as Llama or Gemini, when those phones were developed, those models didn't even exist. So not only are you having to run all the complex software, the camera apps, but now you want to run an AI workload. So people are just putting as much compute as possible into those high-end chips, which is good for us.